All right, let's solve one of the biggest and honestly most confusing questions in tech today. Should you get a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro? The old rules, they're totally out the window. And picking the wrong one, well, that can be a seriously expensive mistake. So let's dive right in and figure this out.
So here's the big question, right? Air or Pro? You've probably been going back and forth on this one, and you're not alone. Millions of people face this every year. You've got these two amazing machines. Both look great, both are powerful, but only one is really the right call for you.
But here's the good news. There is a way to slice right through all that confusion. In fact, it all boils down to one super simple rule. And in the next few minutes, that's exactly what we're going to give you. And look, if you're feeling a bit lost in all the specs and reviews, you're supposed to. The easy answers we used to have just don't work anymore. What used to be a really straightforward decision is now, well, it's complicated. So how exactly did we get here?
Okay, so this whole mess can pretty much be blamed on one thing. Apple Silicon. You know, their M-series chips. When those things dropped back in 2020, they just flipped the entire table. All of a sudden, the slower, totally silent MacBook Air was running circles around older MacBook Pros. The game was completely changed.
And the speed of this change has been just insane. From that first M1 chip to the latest ones focused on AI, every single generation has been a massive leap, not just a little step. The Air got crazy powerful, and the Pro became this absolute monster. And that's the root of our problem today, isn't it? Both of these laptops are just so good.
So, if they're both incredibly powerful, what's the actual difference? What's going to matter to you day to day? Well, it really just comes down to three key things. Let's break them down.
First up is the screen. And let me be clear, the MacBook Air's display is gorgeous. It really is. But the Pro's is on a whole other level. The secret sauce? A feature called ProMotion. That 120 Hz refresh rate makes everything feel buttery smooth. We're talking scrolling websites, editing video. It's incredibly fluid. For a creative pro, this is a must-have. For just about everyone else, it's a really nice luxury.
Okay, the second major difference is performance, but not raw speed exactly. It's actually all about heat. See, the MacBook Air famously has no fan. It's completely silent, which is awesome. The Pro, on the other hand, has fans to actively cool it down. And this brings us to a really important idea, thermal throttling. It's simple. When a processor gets too hot, it has to pump the brakes to avoid damage. It slows itself down.
And this leads us to what is probably the single best way to think about these two machines. The MacBook Air is a sprinter. It is incredibly fast out of the gate for short bursts, things like opening apps, browsing the web, or editing a quick photo. The MacBook Pro, that's your marathon runner. It's designed to keep that same top speed going and going and going for hours at a time.
So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, if you give them both a quick task, their speed is pretty much identical. You won't notice a difference. But the moment you throw a heavy, long-running job at them, like, say, exporting a 10-minute 4K video, the story changes. The Pro's fans will spin up, and it just keeps chugging along at full speed. The Air, because it has no fan, has to start throttling down to manage the heat. So the key isn't which one is faster, it's which one can stay fast for longer.
And that brings us to our third and final big difference, ports. The Air goes for pure minimalism. You get 2 Thunderbolt ports, and that's it. It looks super clean, but yeah, it probably means you're going to be living that dongle life. The Pro is all about practicality. It's got you covered with an HDMI port for hooking up a display, an SD card slot for photographers, plus more Thunderbolt ports. It's a one-stop shop, no dongles required. Okay, so let's recap. The Pro has a better screen, it's a marathon runner for performance, and it's got all the ports. So what does that actually mean for you? Well, it means you have to match the machine to the job. Let's get really specific about who each of these laptops is for.
Let's be really clear here. The MacBook Air is the right laptop for most people. I mean, the vast majority. If you're a student, a writer, you work in an office, maybe you're a web developer. If your work is done in those short bursts we talked about, and you love having something light, thin, and silent, the Air isn't a compromise. It is the perfect machine for you.
The MacBook Pro, on the other hand, is for a very specific type of user. We're talking about people whose job, whose income, relies on sustained power. Think about professional video editors rendering massive files, 3D animators, or software developers compiling huge projects. Their work is a marathon, and they run it every single day.
And that brings us all the way back to the beginning. We talked about the screen, the performance, the ports, but after all that, it really does all come together into one simple, powerful rule that will give you your final answer.
Ready? Here it is. Buy the MacBook Air. Unless your job requires the power of the Pro. And that word requires is everything. This isn't about which one you want more. It's about what your work truly demands to make you faster and more efficient. If your daily job isn't a performance marathon, the Air is the one to get. Period.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about value. For most of us, the Air is just the smarter financial decision. You're paying for phenomenal performance that you will actually feel and use every single day. Why spend hundreds or even thousands more for a performance gear you're never actually going to shift into?
So there you go. The big secret is that it's not really Air versus Pro. It's sprinter versus marathon runner. You now have the rule that cuts through all the noise. So the only question you have to ask yourself is, which one are you?